neighbors. Welcome to the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. I'm your host, Neighbor Nate, and I'm glad you're in the neighborhood. Hey, neighbors. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode number 19 of the Music Festivals podcast. This is the show that helps you get to know music festivals, festival venues, and campgrounds before you go. And I am your host, Neighbor Nate. And I sure am glad that you're back this week. Last week, I was down in Florida. We got to go to the Sunshine Hootenanny Music and Art Festival at the Florida Sand Music Ranch in Brooksville, Florida. It was a great time. And I do encourage you to go check out that playlist on YouTube. There's a lot of great videos and more to come up there, especially from Mo's sets. As well as a few of the other bands, and then some great interviews with folks who were at the festival. So definitely check out Florida Sand. I, for one, will be heading back to that venue because I thought it was a really, really cool place, and they do a lot of great festivals down there. And hats off to Turner Moore and his team at Obsession Productions for putting on some great events at the venue down there. Really, really cool place. This week, we are turning our focus to venue owners and bands and heading south to Nashville for a conversation with a startup software platform that might just be the Match.com of the live music industry. We'll find out more from them in a few. And as a live music fan, if you are looking for a career pivot or even an interesting side business that you might want to invest in, they are actually franchising right now. And so you'll get to learn a little bit more about that too. I know that I was kind of interested in it as well. So we'll get to some news to close the show as always, and I'll send you back to camp with a live performance. But first, let's get right into my conversation with the neighbors at TuneHatch. All right, welcome back, neighbors. I have a very interesting and special guest on the show today, or a collection of special guests, and I want to welcome them in. So these are the folks from TuneHatch, which is a Nashville-based software company that I think is going to be a big deal in the live music industry. So thank you so much for joining today. Just going from, I guess, down the grid. We have Crystal Hector, who's the CEO. We have Weston Lorenz, who is a franchisee, a new franchisee. And we have Nathan Youssef, who is the COO of TuneHatch. Welcome, guys. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having us, Nate.
Yeah,
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. And so I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Nashville is like the tech hub of the South, or at least it's been called that. So you guys are right in the thick of things for both the music industry and technology. Maybe, Crystal, we could just start with you, just a general introduction and a little bit about your background and how this came to be.
Yeah, so originally I'm from South Florida, and I moved here to Nashville to go to school. I also, largely decided to choose Nashville for school because, here's Music City, like you said. It's the epicenter of music, particularly, not just country, but really all types of genres. And yeah. I had really hoped to get published as a songwriter here. This is the town where dreams are made. Right. So I thought, I went to writers' rounds. I went to BMI, ASCAP, those little rounds to essentially, get my songs published, and met a lot of really talented musicians along the way. And, in meeting those musicians, I realized that, the path to building a career in music is just not straightforward for anyone. And so, I'll let Nathan talk a little bit more about his passion for music and why he joined TuneHatch. But for me, it mainly came down to the fact that, building this career for musicians, it's not straightforward. In virtually every other, sphere, there's steps you take to build a career. Yeah. And so my thought process was, why can't we have the same experience as musicians? So that ultimately led to TuneHatch, to really help musicians build that career and do so in a way that fits within the ecosystem that they live within. So the venues with the fans that they interact with as well.
I mean, it's interesting that I noticed you're a musician. Both of you are listed actually on the site as musicians. So Nathan, tell me a little bit about your music background and how did you come to TuneHatch?
Yeah, I am also a music producer here in town. But more than that, I love creative processes. I just love talking to people about, making music, and just there's a lot of creativity in creating a tech platform as well. And, my background was actually in factory management. So I used to work in factories. And I said, I really don't want to be doing that the rest of my life. Right. It's just shift work. I have so much respect for people that do that. but I wanted to do something in tech, and I wanted to do something with startups. So I moved to Nashville, met Crystal, and kind of was able to fuse my passion for music and tech and startups. And you kind of said it before with Nashville, like being a tech hub. Obviously, it's a music hub too. 10% of the population here are musicians, which is extremely high. So it's a great city to do what we're really passionate about doing.
It seems like if you want to be a serious musician at some point, you're moving to Nashville. Like that's where the scene is. At least all the bands that I follow seem to go that direction. So
Definitely, it feels like people are either like, I'll move to Austin, LA, New York, Nashville.
Yeah.
Those are the four. But yeah, Nashville's a fantastic city and so many great people that are really passionate about it. So love being here.
That's cool. Now, Weston, you're a little bit different. So you've come on as kind of the first, or I don't know if it's the first, but you're now a franchisee of TuneHatch. So talk a little bit about your background and how did this appeal to you? Why does this appeal to you?
Sure. So yes, I'm not a founder like Crystal and Nathan. I lassoed my rope around their shooting star, and I'm along for the ride. But no, so I live in Milwaukee. I don't know if you know this, but Milwaukee has the largest music festival on the planet, Summerfest.
Okay.
And I've been in music my entire life. My family owns the oldest religious music publishing company in the United States, and so I've always had music in my life in some way or another. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and then I moved to New York for most of my adult life, and then was ready to make a move and thought Milwaukee would be a good fit. It really is. So. But yes, I am a franchisee. I have the entire territory, southern Wisconsin territory. So there are a lot of venues here that I'm exploring and bringing up to speed.
I think maybe you mentioned too in our previous conversations, your brother's involved as well. Is that correct? He has
yes. He I turned him on to it, and we both bought a franchise. So he's in the Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati area, which is your backyard, isn't it?
Yeah, my backyard. It's interesting. I was listening. There's a podcast called the Walls of Time podcast. A guy named Daniel does it. It's a bluegrass podcast. But he actually, I think he's a Dayton guy too, and he interviewed Del McCurry in Dayton. And I'm just blown away at how much of at least on the bluegrass and Americana side, there's a scene in and around Ohio for that. So that's a good thing. You guys, Crystal and Nathan, you mentioned that you guys met in college. And so in doing some research for this, it seems like you guys have some ties with Vanderbilt. Talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, me and Crystal. Well, Crystal's a double door. That's what they call it. Which she went there for undergrad and for MBA. I went to Texas, so like hook 'em horns for undergrad, and then did some work and went back and got my MBA, and that's where I met Crystal. And it's quite a funny story because most people go back to get their MBA to get a job or switch or pivot into more of a corporate consulting, investment banking type role. Crystal and I were on the exact same page that we went back to start a business. And so we met in our classes, and we actually went to Panera Bread one day and had coffee and had a super intense conversation where we're both had the same kind of idea of where TuneHatch could go. And so it was really fun. And then in classes, like we would, obviously be listening and trying to do our best in class, but I'd look over at her screen and she'd have TuneHatch open and I'd have TuneHatch open. We were just working on the business, trying to get it to work. And Vanderbilt, and maybe Crystal, you can touch on this, has been really supportive of us and giving a lot of resources and time and energy into kind of developing the concept with us. So we're really grateful to them as well.
Amazing. Yeah, Crystal, like it's interesting. So we have, where I'm from, we have Ohio State University, and they've got a big incubator program. And you're seeing that more and more with colleges and universities really digging into the tech startup space. So talk a little bit about the support and how did that involvement kind of leapfrog you guys to getting ahead and where you are now?
Yeah, I would say that, as you mentioned earlier on, Nashville's becoming a tech hub, and Vanderbilt's really trying to help push that forward. So they have an innovation center here called the One Tree, and the One Tree has been supportive of us from day one, providing just mentorship and spaces and access to, people in the industry who could just be supportive along the way, help us to learn so that we could give back the best that we could through our company. Yeah.
So these are, I want to move into talking a little bit about the actual technology. So I've been in software for a very, very long time. And so this looks to me like you're kind of taking that like two-sided network approach, but talk a little bit about who are the audiences here. You do live music venues, you have artists. How does this all work? How does this broker deals between the two?
Yeah. So I'll start off with the thesis of our company, right? Live music is so interconnected between artists, venues, the fans as well, that in order to create something that's sustainable, create sustainable change, something that benefits everyone, you have to create a platform that brings them together, lets them interact together in the same space. And that's why we built TuneHatch the way we did. So musicians, they sign up, they can apply to perform with the venues that are working with us, as well as even venues that are not yet working with TuneHatch. So we give them tools to really craft their what we call their EPK, right? Electronic press kit. It's a term that is quite used pretty frequently in the industry, but for us, it's basically like a resume that's put together in a way that's aesthetically pleasing, in a way that actually has information that bookers are looking for, so that we can make sure that any musician that's using our platform has a leg up when it comes to trying to get booked at really any venue they want to perform at.
Okay.
We have a lot of other tools, promotional tools, ticketing. The ticketing for us is not just providing a link. It really comes down to conveying the vibe, the aesthetic. Who are these artists on the lineup? What is the show going to feel like for the concert goer? Helping our musicians and our venues communicate that through the listing, as well as helping the fans on the other side when they see that ticket listing to actually be able to preview the show, to really understand what show am I going to see, who are the people that I'm going to see, so that everyone comes into it and has a good time at the end of the day.
I mean, it strikes me almost as like a dating service, almost like one of those dating websites, but for music industry professionals and venue owners. Was that at a brass tacks? Does that kind of fit the bill?
You took the words. I see Weston smiling so big because whenever it's funny, everyone describes TuneHatch in a different way. That is Weston's description. So I'll let him respond to that.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Instead of it being men and women, the artist and the venues go on, and the artist will say, I'm a country western singer. I have a microphone and a guitar and 2 backup singers. I need a drum kit. And then the venue goes on and says, we're a 300 seat theater. We have this, we do this Thursday nights or whatever. And so then they can go find each other and really, and it helps even broaden the usefulness of an artist, because if an artist is in Nashville and they're kind of feeling a little stale, they can go up the country, go up to, Cincinnati and then Indianapolis and then Milwaukee. And then, they can kind of make themselves a train of the path that they're going to follow in their, and getting new venues.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I noticed, and one of the things I think you guys are doing absolutely right, is it doesn't cost artists or venues anything to jump on this platform, right? Like, it's a frictionless transaction. You just sign up.
Yep, that's right. Right now, we don't take anything from venues and artists. It's part of our mission to create a better ecosystem. So we don't, even on a ticket sale, if it's a $10 ticket, we don't take anything out of their ticket sales, and it's totally free for them to sign up, create their EPK, and start applying to gigs.
Interesting. You'd mentioned, and I was kind of looking over some of the notes too, that there's not a lot of transparency sometimes in the music business. And I just actually, I'm launching an interview on Friday that I did last week with a 40-year veteran of the music industry who's actually on some larger tours and whatnot. But he said the same thing too, in that sometimes if you're a band, you go to the venue, you play, and then at the end of the night, you might get handed a pocket full of sweaty 20s, and that's your paycheck. How do you guys solve that problem? Like, when you say you're bringing more transparency into these transactions, how does that work?
So I'll start, and then Crystal go on. What we learned from talking to venues here in Nashville is, like, nobody wants the lack of transparency. Like, venues aren't striving to be untransparent, and artists don't want to, have to deal with that either. It's just a lack of lack of tools, really. Like, a venue not being able to show their ticket sales in a way for artists to just log in and see. Like through TuneHatch, you can just monitor the ticket sales, right? A venue not having a good process to pay out the artists because they don't have their Venmo, they don't have a check, they have 5 different ways of sending money to people. TuneHatch, they just push one button and send it directly to the artist. So a lot of times what we found was the lack of transparency is because of all these different fragmented tools. And what we try to do is kindly put all the tools together so it's really easy to stay transparent throughout the entire process. And I think that's one thing that we're doing really well and what people appreciate about our platform here in Nashville.
That's awesome. It's really interesting to hear you say that because it almost sounds like it's a make it easy button for the artists so that the artists can focus on their art, writing songs and performing, and the venues, especially even festivals or even like, brick and mortar venues, always have checklists, always have these big papers of a million things they got to do that week. So you guys are kind of taking some of that friction out of this.
100%.
Definitely.
That's awesome. So it's an interesting business opportunity. How old is the company? How long have you guys been around?
So we officially launched last summer full time.
Okay.
Like Nathan said, we went through the MBA program at Vanderbilt and we graduated last summer.
Congratulations.
Or last spring.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we were full time since then.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now you're moving. So, and maybe this is more for Weston as well. You're moving into this franchise model. Was that always the play? Was it always like, hey, we're going to build this because everything is moving toward that like hyper local type of business model. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how the franchise is going to work.
Sure. So as franchises go, it's a pretty simple model. You, as a franchisee, get a cut of all the ticket sales. And then you split it with TuneHatch corporate. But it really is a very simple franchise. If you have an automobile and a cell phone and a laptop, you're on the go. So it's not like a Chipotle or a Chick-fil-A where you're building a building and you got to get a bunch of employees and you got to there's a lot of inlay or outlay of money up front. It's a pretty simple model, and then you just go and you walk into bars and walk into venues and say, "Hey, my name's Weston. I'm with TuneHatch. Let me give you a quick demo." I think you'd really save 40 hours a week. You're doing so many shows, you're going to save at least whole person's time. But it really is a exciting franchise, and I think bars and venues are getting it really quickly.
Just
so
to
what is
off that, more than anything, what we've learned is a lot of independent venues are tech striving. They want to have better tech processes, and we want to be able to provide support. They have a lot of questions, and we want to be able to give that support in human form at times. So part of our franchise model is having people like Weston and a team in Wisconsin and having a designated resource that can really go into venues and teach them the different tools so that they don't end up, like you said, with a sheet at the end of the night where they're trying to, figure out where the ticket sales are and how many sweaty 20s are in the bucket and that kind of thing. So that's a big part of the franchise model, is providing that human interaction as well.
So we've talked about 3 audiences: the venue owners and venues, the performers and musicians, and then potential franchisees. What about if I'm just a general music lover, live music lover? Is this something that I can hop on and use too?
Definitely. So right now, fans, music lovers don't need to log in. They just go to the shows page. They can preview, any of the shows we have on our list. These are all shows that are being put on by the venues, the musicians, and the promoters who are using our platform.
Yeah.
We designed the shows, the listings in such a way where, the fans can actually preview every artist on the lineup, their music, where they performed before, who they perform with, things of that nature, to really get a feel for who are these musicians, what is this experience going to be like when I get to the show, especially when we're dealing with when we're looking at independent musicians, independent sphere. It's not necessarily the case that you will know every artist on the lineup. You might know one that you follow on Instagram and you clicked on the link, and then you see 2 or 3 others and you wonder, well, what is that going to look like? And with TuneHatch, you can actually listen to their music and become a real fan of those musicians even before going to the show. So it benefits the fan in that way, but it also benefits the musicians
Yeah.
because people can actually, experience them before the show starts.
And imagine there's links back to the musician's website and everything else too. So you're going to generate some traffic off of that and things like that. It's interesting that you talk about that because like I think like sometimes there's a Friday night where it's like, oh, I don't have anything going on tonight. Maybe I should go see a show or something. And so I get on my list of bookmarks to look at all the different local venues to see who's playing. And what this kind of solves is I could go to one place and see all the people that are playing in local venues if they're signed up with TuneHatch. So that's kind of neat. If you're a potential franchisee, so talk a little bit about, you guys are probably out there pounding the pavement to find additional franchisees. Are there specific markets you're looking in? Who makes a good franchisee for TuneHatch? Like what's the, in business, you would call that the ICP or ideal customer profile, right? So who is that?
You want me to answer this, Weston? And if I miss something, we are hitting the pavement, definitely. From a franchise standpoint, we're looking for people that are really passionate about music, passionate about community, people that are heavily involved in music venues, or just the live music scene in general, and want to go in and create connections and find ways to help venues and musicians within their community. That's definitely a big part of the ICP for potential franchise owners.
Yeah, okay. If I was going to bulletize it, I would say maybe 3 to 5 years of outside sales experience. So someone who wants some passive income, because once you sign a bar or venue up, it's yours for life as long as you're in good standing with TuneHatch. So if you have pounded the pavement before and have a little bit of experience underneath you, the cost of getting involved. I mean, we have people that are still have daytime jobs and do this. This is kind of a nights and weekends kind of thing, and they're really involved with the music and the bar scene anyway. So they're out there doing this anyway. Why not represent us and put some money in your back pocket?
Absolutely. You talk a lot about bars, nightclubs, things like that. So I'm thinking my local venues are Natalie's in Grandview, Woodlands Tavern, things like that, smaller venues, but they bring in, sometimes bigger acts. Does this ever make it to the larger venues or the festival venues? Like in Ohio, we have Legend Valley, which is fairly large. Is that in the business plan at some point?
So we're definitely building the platform in a way that can support any venue, any artist that wants to use it. At this point in time, we are focused more so on the smaller, I would say under 500 capacity or under 1,000 capacity spaces. But the tools, holistically work for larger venues and festivals as well.
Yeah,
it scales really easily and up into the point where you have a seating chart, row F, seat double D kind of thing. We're still working on that, but if you have an open air environment and you want to have just people come and sit on the lawn, we'd be the great tool for that.
I love the concept. I really do. You guys have over 1,000 artists signed up, or at least that's what I've been able to find on the website. Who are some of the artists that you have signed up? Can you mention anybody?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, we need to probably update that number. We're closer to 4,000 now. Artists here in Nashville, mostly in Nashville. There's been a lot of really wonderful artists that have come through. I don't know if names they're all mostly independent artists, but Guthrie Trapp is a guitarist that plays at the Underdog. The Underdog is a venue here in town that really is like just a cultural staple for guitarists here in Nashville. And so Guthrie Trapp is very well known in town. ZG Smith is a good friend of mine that I'll shout out. He has a lot of great music and he's kind of on the rise here in Nashville. So many artists just play different shows here. I don't know if any other one's going to pop to the front of your mind, Crystal.
I saw a show the other day. So, we go to shows too, right? And so I went to a show at the Bowery Vault, another venue here in town. And there's this artist named Mercy Bell. And she sang this song called Jesus Was a Drag Queen,
Okay, nice.
That kind of title, you're wondering, what is this song going to be about, But it was so beautiful. It was all about humanity, accepting people as they are, and just spreading love. And I thought it was a really, really beautiful song. And she's an amazing artist.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, it's interesting too, because one of the conversations I was in this week is, there's tons of great musicians out there, right? What is it that makes the difference for one musician that suddenly hits it big and is now national tour and has the bus, and the other ones that are just kind of getting started? And I think that the platform that you guys are building is going to give a lot of exposure to a lot of up and coming artists, and that's only going to make the music scene that much more rich. So hats off to what you guys are doing. Just wrapping up, I'd like to hear from each of you, who's on your radar in terms of the top artists that you're seeing, whether it's locally or nationally, and when's the last time you've been to a festival?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start. I'm big into 90s and later hip hop. I grew up on Public Enemy. The new guys coming out, Ren is great. Killer Mike, LP, Run the Jewels.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm big into that scene, and we have a lot of hip hop artists on our platform trying to get to that next level and get some exposure. So.
What about you, Crystal?
So a lot of the music I listen to these days is actually Latin music. So outside of TuneHatch, I dance salsa, bachata, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So on my radar are artists like Esme, up and coming salsa, bachata singers.
That's cool. That's very cool. That's cool. Nathan, what about you?
My favorite musician is a band called Youth Lagoon. They're the first concert I went to that really had an epiphany in my head that I want to go to more shows. Trevor Powers of Youth Lagoon. As far as like concert festivals, we did do a festival in Nashville called Roots on the River, very local. Okay. For me, I love going seeing local shows and just people that I know. That's kind of the thing that I love the most, especially here in Nashville.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are definitely in the epicenter of all things fun. So hats off to you for doing this, and I wish you all the best of luck in launching TuneHatch. There's going to be links in the show notes to all the stuff that we mentioned on this show. And if you are someone who is, looking for kind of that side gig or that next career pivot, that's what this podcast is for me, is it's a career pivot, mid-career pivot, hopefully. I think TuneHatch, if you're into the music industry, is definitely something to look at. So hopefully, there's some people out there watching that might go, maybe that needs to happen in my city. And we'll get to see if we can get you guys a little bit more franchisees to help spread the love. So thank you so much for jumping on the show today.
Thanks for your time, Nate.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate it.
All right, neighbors, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I really think that TuneHatch has the right idea and that they're going to go somewhere. So pay attention to that technology, sign up to see if it's in your town already. And if not, feel free to contact the folks there to maybe bring it to your town if it's something that you're interested in. But let's go ahead and get to this week's news, because the news is getting sparse. We're almost towards the end of the festival season, but there's a few left. So we're going to share those. First up, we have the 48th Ann Arbor Folk Fest Festival. This is happening January 24th and 25th, 2025. And the location is Hill Auditorium in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Being from Columbus, it pains me to say those words, especially after this past weekend, but it is what it is. Ticket prices are fairly cheap, ranging between $47.50 and $250, depending on the package that you get. You can find more information on this festival at thearc.org/folk-festival. Again, that's thearc.org/folk-festival. If you're in the Ann Arbor or Michigan area, this is definitely one to check out. Next up, we have the Midwinter Bluegrass Festival, and early bird tickets are now available. This is happening February 14th through the 16th, 2025 at the Delta by Marriott in North Glen, Colorado. So again, all these festivals are moving inside because it's getting really, really cold. Lineup looks great. It includes Tony Triska's Earl Jam, Woodbox Heroes, Sister Sadie, Mike Compton and Joe Newberry, Damn Tall Buildings, Jake Legg, Blue Canyon Boys, Miss Amy and the Jet Set, who we've actually had on the show in the past, Ragged Union, Charlie Stevens Band, Casey & Co. The 3-day passes are available at $122.90. There's a couple fees tacked onto that. And you can find info and tickets available at midwinterbluegrass.com. Again, that website is midwinterbluegrass.com. And finally, happening tomorrow in Columbus is Columbus Winterfest. And this is December 7th, 2024. The show takes place 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Bicentennial Park, and the admission is free, so you can't beat the price of the admission. Features include live music, seasonal craft beers from local breweries, local food trucks, family-friendly activities that include a mechanical reindeer. And I'm really excited to actually see what that is. I have kind of this preconceived notion of people riding like a mechanical bull, but it's got a red nose and it's decorated for Christmas. It's going to have some holiday inflatable bounce houses for the kids, giant snow globe, and lots more activities there. They also have a special on craft beer tasting that's available for $14, and this includes 6 4-ounce pours and a koozie that you get to take home. Not a bad price for 6 4-ounce beers. The lineup includes Sax Squatch, that's a YouTube viral sensation, Rumpke Mountain Boys, which is a local Ohio bluegrass band, Austin and the Sid Experience, who we've had on the show in the past and seen them at Lazy Jam, and then DJ Black Unicorn. You can find out more information on the website at winterfestcolumbus.com. Again, that is winterfestcolumbus.com. And that is it for this week's news, ladies and gentlemen. Again, not a lot of festivals happening during the cold winter months, but if you want to stay in the know on all this stuff, you can join the neighborhood at musicfestivalspodcast.com. That'll take you to the website where there's all kinds of different ways to subscribe, from the email list to getting the podcast on your audio networks to watching it on YouTube, and even checking out the Facebook page and my Instagram feed at Neighbor Nate Fests. Again, that's Instagram at Neighbor Nate Fests. If you see me down at Winterfest this weekend, please say hello. I will be running around there, hopefully shooting some video and trying not to freeze my butt off. But that is all we have for this week's show. Next week, we are going to be talking with the gentleman from Mountain Grass Unit. Again, Mountain Grass Unit has become one of my favorite new bluegrass bands. The week following that, on 12/20, we're going to be talking with Trey Hensley, who is just an outstanding bluegrass picker and a really, really nice gentleman. I'm excited to share that interview with you. Following that, the week of the 27th, we're going to have the recap of Columbus Winterfest, and you'll get to see some of the live footage from that. And then the week following that, into the new year, first show of the new year is going to be Dan Boner from ETSU Bluegrass Pride Band. Had a great conversation with Dan, and I'm excited to share that with you. What they're doing at that program, I think, is going to guarantee great music for all the rest of us for many, many years to come. But I sure do appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate each of you. There's over 1,700 of you on the YouTube channel now, and plenty on Facebook and in the email list. So it's enough for me to make sure I want to keep this thing going into 2025. If you are one of the regular listeners and or viewers at this point, please go ahead and rate the show wherever you're at. I really would love the feedback, and any rating you get helps get the show in front of more people. And if you do like what you're watching and or listening to, and this is your first time here, again, head over to musicfestivalspodcast.com and make sure to subscribe in whatever way that you want to get the show. And remember to click the bell if you're doing it on YouTube. That's going to make sure that you get the notifications as they come. And for this week, I'm going to leave you with a great performance by Mo that I was able to capture down at the Sunshine Hootenanny Music and Art Festival at the Florida Sand Ranch in Brooksville, Florida. This is Mo with St. Augustine, a very appropriate song for a cold December day. I hope to be your neighbor at the next festival very, very soon. And until then, stay warm. Hey folks, how y'all doing? It's very good to be here. Oh, yeah. What a cool spot. This is great. I can't see what it is. I wasn't sure. Here we go.
strip,